How's it going, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be going over what the Navy OAR exam is, how to prepare for it, and what to expect on it. So what exactly is the Navy OAR exam? Well, it's the Officer Aptitude Rating exam, and it's part of the Aviation Standard Test Battery, or the astb-e, which you've probably heard of if you are looking to become a pilot or a Navy flight officer. This exam is used for the Navy, Marines, and Coast Guard to assess the officer candidates. What's unique about the OAR is that it's an adaptive test, meaning that it's going to get harder or easier depending on how well you're performing during your exam. Also with this exam, you only get 3 chances in your lifetime to take it. So make the most of it and make sure you're studying and preparing as best as you can before you talk to your officer recruiter and take the test. They also only scored the most recent score, so if you, let's say on attempt 1, you get a 48 and you decide to take it again, hoping to get a high 50, even above 50, and you end up getting a 43, let's say, the test score on your application is going to be a 43, not your 48. So make sure if you end up retaking the test, trying to improve your score, that you study and prepare more than the first time to ensure that you do not get a lower score. The exam is composed of 3 main sections. You have your math, which is 30 questions in 40 minutes, your reading comprehension, which is going to be 20 questions in 30 minutes, and you have your mechanical comprehension test, which is going to be 30 questions in 15 minutes. So in total, the exam is 85 minutes long. You have 80 questions, and for scoring, it's scored on a weird scale. It's from 20 to 80. And the average is going to be a 49. When I took the test, I got a 59, which was about what I was expecting given I haven't taken college classes in quite some time. And because I hadn't taken college math or physics in quite some time, I decided to spend a whole month just dedicating an hour, maybe 2 hours a day. And all the study material I found online and was using to prep for my test, I'm going to put them down in the description below if you want to use them yourself. Next, we're going to dive a little more into each section so I can go over what I saw on the test and what you should be studying. For the math section, you need to be looking at fractions, decimals, percentages, know your long division, probability problems, word problems, calculating areas of weird shapes, exponents, and logs. My last question was a log question. If you get to the log questions in the math section, that means you're doing pretty dang well. So just let that be a confidence boost if you make it that far. For the math section, I would recommend memorizing all the formulas for area, volume, surface area, and absolutely know your orders of operations and factorization. Definitely when you're studying for the math section, make sure you're including word problems. A common problem that I was studying that I did see one on the test like this, it was a scenario where train A leaves the station at, let's say, 0600 at 50 miles per hour. Train B leaves at 0800 at 52 miles an hour. What's the distance at when train B will catch up with train A? I think there's a bunch of questions like that in the study material. You'll find it in the description again. So just make sure you're looking at those. Overall, the math section is 1 to 2 difficulties above what I was studying in my study material. But if you're solid with the concepts you need for the study material in the practice exams, it's not going to throw you off. They're marginally harder. Just be prepared for that. Now onto the reading section. For the reading section, it's exactly what you'd expect for a college level aptitude test. It'll give you a prompt that's, I don't know, it'll take you 30 seconds to read it. And then the questions, I believe all of the questions were in the format that you choose the most right answer, which can get tricky if you're not paying quite enough attention when you're reading. I'd recommend you read through the question and answers first, just so it's easier for you to pick up on pertinent information in the prompt. Given that you have 20 questions in 30 minutes, that gives you a minute and a half to read and answer each question. So just make sure that you practice reading under a time constraint like that. Definitely when you're doing the practice test, set a timer and make sure you're sticking true to that. As for the topics you'll see that you're going to be reading about in the prompts, It's kind of a variety, but mostly it was about Navy regulations, very dry material, with a couple of scenarios sprinkled out, like, according to this regulation, should this person be able to take leave on this time or whatever like that. I've never been the strongest reader, but I didn't find the reading portion too difficult for me. And again, for the reading, just make sure that you're pacing yourself. Definitely take some practice tests. The reading section is hard just because you can't study the material really. You just got to practice reading for comprehension under time constraint. And the next and last section we're going to cover is the mechanical comprehension test. This will cover principles like motion, force, acceleration, types of machines, pulleys, levers, calculating mechanical advantage, fluids, electricity, pressure, volume, electrical circuits, and heat transfer. I'd recommend memorizing the equations used to calculate gravity, force, friction, mechanical advantage, torque, and know how to calculate the force to balance out a lever system. You'll also want to know and memorize the basic physics principles such as Bernoulli's principle, Boyle's law, Charles' law, and Newton's three laws. Don't make the mistake of just memorizing the principles and laws, but also know how to apply them given either a word or picture problem. Additionally, make sure that you understand and that you're practicing gear and belt pulley systems, whether it's calculating the mechanical advantage of the system, determining if it's spinning clockwise or counterclockwise, or it's asking which one's spinning faster, like is gear A or gear B spinning faster, which you'll see a bunch of those on the practice material as well. In the mechanical section, I found it wasn't always asking you to solve the problem per se, but it was asking you to maybe write out a formula that would solve the problem and just input the variables that you have in the question for it. Overall, the mechanical section wasn't as much math as I was expecting it would be. Like I said, it's more about applying the knowledge than solving the equations and whatnot. But by no means take that as you don't need to practice actually solving questions out, because you might get thrown one or two, and then if you're not practicing it, you're not going to be ready for it. And before you leave, I'm just going to go over some quick general test taking strategies that I found helpful when I was taking the exam. The first is obviously time management. You need to make sure that you are answering questions quick, diligent, and not killing time, because you don't really have any time to kill. You'll take the test on a computer, and at the bottom, I think the bottom right, you'll see the time for the section that you have left. And I found it quite helpful to tally how many questions I had done in the section. That way I knew how many questions I had left in what time, because it doesn't show you how many questions you've actually answered in that section. Additionally, it's important just to know when to guess and move on with the question. With how little time you have for each question, it's not worth your time trying to struggle through a question that you have no idea what's going on. Just take a guess and move on with it. The exam's scored like the ACT, which means you don't actually get penalized for any wrong answers. So if you were to get some right answers and you're guessing, it's only going to help you. And again, with the study material down in the description, take all of the practice tests that you can. I'm sure there's some more online if you look around. The more practice tests you take, the better off you're going to be for the test. And make sure when you're taking the practice test that you are setting your timer just so you know how each section is going to feel under that specific time constraint. Something I was not expecting when I took the OAR was how loud and distracting others would be around me. I took it myself, but the recruiter had left me in a conference room, and it had a window. And right behind this window were all the other recruiters just laughing and telling jokes to each other the whole time. And it was just unbelievably annoying. And it kept distracting me, especially during the reading section. And for stuff like that, you can't always prepare for it. And so what I would recommend is when you're taking maybe one or two of the practice tests, just leave some random video on in the background that could be kind of distracting to you, just to help you kind of focus and hone in on what you're actually working with and, taking the test. After watching this video, you saw what I learned taking the test, what I wish I knew, my study habits, but I would recommend looking online for other people's experiences, whether that's another YouTube video, Reddit, or There's a forum, Air Warriors, if you haven't heard about it. It's where a lot of the Navy officer candidates are on and talk about jobs and applying for their applications and stuff. And I'll leave a link for that in the description as well. Keep in mind, you're probably gonna see more questions on topics I didn't cover in this video, which is why I recommend taking a lot of practice tests and utilizing other online sources to get a feel for what's gonna be on the test. I just mentioned in this video things that stood out to me and what I could remember. Unless you're fresh out of college, I'd highly recommend taking time to study for the exam. My recruiter kept trying to push me to take the exam because it was more of he kept saying that it was more of a off the street assessment, not necessarily a kind of assessment that you should study for, which if you ask anyone, this is wrong. He just wanted to push me into the process quicker, which is, it's his job or whatever. Just make sure that you don't take the test until you're ready for it. And like I said, I took a whole month dedicating probably more than 40 to 60 hours studying for this exam. And I felt good about my final score being a 59. Again, considering that I haven't been in college in some time. And again, you only have 3 chances in your life to take the test. So take it seriously, make sure you're studying for them, take your time, and just don't let your recruiter or some other factor push you into taking the test before you're ready. And with all that said, thank you guys for watching through to the end. Hopefully you learned something, and good luck taking your exams. And of course, if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and leave any comments if you guys got any questions. Have an awesome day.